The story of Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration is one of the most awe-inspiring moments in the New Testament. It reveals the divine nature of Jesus and is a powerful moment of revelation for his disciples. The Transfiguration of Jesus. One day, Jesus took 3 of his closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, on a journey up a high mountain. The path was steep and rugged, but the disciples had grown used to following their master, trusting him no matter where he led them. They were eager to be alone with him, away from the crowds, to learn more of the mysteries he so often spoke of. As they reached the summit, the air was thin and crisp, and the world below them seemed far away. Jesus stepped a little further ahead and began to pray. The disciples watched quietly, but soon their tired bodies began to give way, and their eyes grew heavy with sleep. Suddenly, they were jolted awake by an incredible sight. Before them, Jesus was transformed. His face shone like the sun, radiating pure, brilliant light. His clothes became dazzling white, brighter than anything on earth. It was as if the very glory of God had descended upon him. The disciples stared in amazement, unable to speak. But the wonder didn't end there. As they watched, 2 figures appeared beside Jesus, Moses, the great lawgiver, and Elijah, the prophet. They were talking with Jesus, speaking of his impending departure, his coming death in Jerusalem, which would fulfill the ancient prophecies. Peter, overcome with awe and fear, blurted out, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will build 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But even as Peter spoke, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from within the cloud, they heard the voice of God. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." At this, the disciples fell to the ground, trembling in fear. The voice of God, so powerful and overwhelming, had struck them to their core. They lay there, too terrified to move. But then they felt a gentle touch. Jesus was standing over them, his radiant appearance now gone. "Rise," he said softly, "do not be afraid." Slowly, they lifted their heads and looked around. Moses and Elijah were gone. The cloud had vanished, and everything was as it had been before. Only Jesus remained, looking at them with kindness and understanding. As they descended the mountain, Jesus instructed them not to speak of what they had seen until after his resurrection. The disciples were confused, not fully understanding what had just happened. But they had glimpsed something extraordinary, a brief moment where the veil between heaven and earth had lifted, revealing the true glory of their Master. This story, often referred to as the Transfiguration, is a pivotal moment in the Gospels. It showed the disciples, and later all believers, that Jesus was not just a man but the divine Son of God, fulfilling the law and the prophets. The mountain experience reinforced their faith and prepared them for the trials that would come as they followed Jesus to Jerusalem and, ultimately, to the cross.